Becky.
Christopher.
Rebecca Brooke Herman-Barnica. Da?
Da.
Da. Rebecca Brooke Herman-Barnica, welcome. You are on deck. Ega shegara.
Ega shegara.
Granddad said it wrong because he would say Ega shegara.
That's how I just say it because Granddad said it that way.
I know. My wife corrected me. It's Ega shegedra.
Ega shegara. It feels too... But the thing is, the Herman way is to sort of like think you're doing it really right all the time. And you're really not, but you're just owning it. So I'm going to just continue with Ega shegara.
Okay, so I know there's two examples that come to mind immediately. All right, hang on. Yeah, there's two examples.
You just own it.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say mine, and then you say yours, okay? But I'm going to give you a hint as to what yours is.
Okay, because
yours happened in Mexico. Yours happened in Mexico. I'm not saying you, okay? But we're going to get right into it. So mine is in terms of being a Herman and owning something, even though you're totally butchering it. His dad was somehow convinced.
It's going in a bun.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
When we were visiting Grandma and Granddad in Coral Springs, good grief, Colorado Springs, and we went to the store to get chips and salsa. If you are familiar, in Colorado, there's a brand that is sold everywhere. It is called Pace Picante sauce. Every TV commercial, Pace, P-A-C-E, Pace Picante, everywhere. Dad,
I know what my example is.
I know. Dad referred to it as pache. He instead of just the simple pronunciation that it was, Dad couldn't accept that it was just that simple. No. It was pache. So I remember him saying, "Let's get some pache picantes," and I didn't correct him.
No,
because it was just too fucking funny. Pache.
Well, and also,
and yours
ordering breakfast, I'll have dos, huevos, con spinache.
No, it was spinache.
Oh, was it with
I think you said spinache.
Either way.
Yeah,
just not right.
Yeah, that
and
was
everybody at that hotel just humored him and kept a straight face. But is it spinache? No, it's spinache. It's che.
Well, however he said it, it's spinach.
No shit.
Pache and spinach. So funny. So funny. All right. Well, Becky, welcome.
Thank
welcome
you.
To Florida. Welcome to Fort Lauderdale. Welcome to the Herman Agency. Welcome to our podcast room. We are podcasting. It is called On Deck, and here you are. And, of course, without any need for explanation, we are drinking Chateauneuf du Pape. And I have looked forward to this conversation for a long time, with no real aim for where it leads or where it ends.
I feel anxiety about performing over this.
It's everybody does. There's not one person who works here that doesn't sit there and feel some sense of nerves or anxiety, for weeks on end, wondering, and everybody leaves going, wow, that was
nice.
That was really nice. And that's, to me, a meaningful compliment, because it's not supposed to be a nerve-wracking thing. Like, I get that it can be, but it's really geared.
Well, you're on stage.
To be...
Right? So there's just a vulnerability to being on stage.
Right.
That's all.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, to that, we're drinking Chateauneuf du Pape. I would like to start there.
And water to rinse my birthday.
And water. There you go. I'd like to start there. Recently, I was at a restaurant with Joel and Debbie. Irviana and I were in Jackson Hole. And I
feel like I need to, these are friends of Chris's. For those of you listening who might not know.
Thank you, yes.
And his wife,
and you
Irviana.
Can look at the camera and, hey. So that's correct. And we were at a restaurant, and so I had the desire to have some Chardonnay de Pape. And the guy who's there, the sommelier, is a master somm. And he shared with me something that I did not realize, which is that the Chardonnay de Pape region does not have the same stringent guidelines for what goes into the wine as if you were to compare to Bordeaux or Burgundy, where those are very strictly controlled, I believe, appellations.
How so?
There is no strict rule that says it has to be 85% this and 15% that, made in this way. It's loose.
But...
Well, just bear with me, because I'm leading to somewhere, because I know this was something that you were dipping your toe into and going down this avenue, and it's also the Herman family wine, if you will. So there's a lot of topic to discuss here, but I found that really interesting because, number one, I didn't know that, and number two, after processing that thought, if true, because he brought a bunch of, we had like 2 or 3 Chardonnay de Papes, and I will tell you, not one of them met my standard in my mind for what a Chardonnay de Pape is.
Which is what?
Let me get to that in just a second, okay? So it led me to this sort of analysis of our family.
Of course.
So to answer your question, what is a Chardonnay de Pape? In my mind and in my heart and in my soul, this wine is so deeply connected to us and Dad and Granddad for a number of reasons. But I love the story that I understand the wine to be, which is it is grown in this region along the Rhone River Valley. It is grown in an area where the Pope used to have a summer vacation place. For years, it was like 100 years, the Pope was actually not in Rome. It was in the papacy was in Annecy, France.
Was that because it was warm during summer? It was too hot in Rome in the summer?
No, there was something happened with the church.
He made
something happened with the church, and there was I believe an alignment with France at the time, and so the papacy was actually in Annecy, France, and not in Rome for about 100 years. And during that period of time, there was a country estate, if you will, where the Pope vacationed, hence Châteauneuf de Pape. The new chateau of the Pope is what that means. And that area...
So this is 5 years old in my brain because I did my training before the girls were born. So maybe 5 years ago. So this is all rough. But I'm remembering something, and I could be totally wrong, but where he made a voyage every year to this region, and I believe it was weather and something related, where he would come to the chateau, and something is triggering in my brain. Somebody listening may know, but it involved the fish you could get in the region and the wine and all of it. Like it was a voyage he did every year, I think. I should know.
Meaning from Rome to Annecy or Rome to Châteauneuf de Pape?
To Châteauneuf de Pape. There is somewhere in wine, in old world wines, in this region, there is a story around that. I can't remember it, but I remember that there was like this, I can see it visually in my head.
Let's look that up later, okay? But for the purpose of continuing the conversation, the thing about the wine in my mind has less to do with the Pope. That's just sort of our loose understanding of history, let's call it that.
Yeah.
And more about the terroir, right? And so the terroir in this area consists of from what I understand, a very rough and difficult soil covered in reasonably large, I guess maybe white, or Donna's walking by. Becky, I think Donna is saying that you need to speak a little bit closer to the microphone, so bring the mic a little closer to your face.
You got it.
Yeah, just give it a tug. Donna likes to make interesting cameos in our... It's so funny.
Don't yell at me about my bun, Donna.
No, yeah, okay. So, so anyway, the stones that cover the terroir are large, medium white stones, soft, round, that washed down from the Alps and into this area. And these stones cover a very difficult and challenging terroir. And during the day, the sun right, warms these stones, which creates a reflective warmth up onto the vines. But the vines have had to struggle a lot
to survive.
And so
they have to dig very deep.
Yes. And so it's a struggle.
Correct.
It's hard work to become this wine. And
yes.
you are rewarded as the vine by this beautiful warmth during the day that reflects off the stones. And it helps keep you warm through the evening as the temperatures drop.
Right.
There's still that radiant warmth, right?
But you have this delicate skin too, and your soft interior.
Right. Interesting. Okay, so now we're back to
now
we're getting into
Mo Ayub.
Yeah. Okay, well let's hold on.
Yeah.
Let's stay focused. So you've got a wine that is very big in its fruitiness, very strong
because of the warmth,
and bold in its flavor, and it comes as a result of extreme struggle to growth. But then there is a nurturing warmth that comes from the earth that helps keep you survive. And for whatever reason, this wine is, if you were to say, what's the Herman family wine?
Chardonnay
de Pop.
But why?
I don't know.
What's the origin story of that?
Well, I think it comes from two areas. It comes from Dad and from Granddad, and I'm not sure where it started.
Where's that restaurant that they went to when they picked up the Porsche?
I don't know.
And they drove it to France. If you look it up, I have a photo of it with the name of it. So I don't know if it's in Chardonnay de Pop, if that's where it started. But for as long as we can remember, this was the wine. I mean, there was lots of wine.
I think it's two things. I think, number one, obviously Dad was very into wine, and I think that he really gravitated to Rhone wines in general, the wines that grew along the Rhone River Valley, whether it was a Chardonnay de Pop, whether it was a Côte de Rhone, and I don't know enough to describe the rest, but that seemed to be the varietal or the region that he really gravitated to. And
he liked big, earthy,
right?
I would say dirty, like you can taste the dirt in them. Wines.
And I like that too. I mean, and this is not something that I've adopted to just because it was like here. Like legitimately for me, if you were to ask me what wine do I enjoy the most, I'd say the same thing too, you know? And I think that for us, it's something that describes our personalities, right? And not to be self-congratulatory or over-define ourselves, but we are people that do have strong opinions, big personalities, and I think this wine just really encapsulates us. And so I think that was something that Dad gravitated to. I don't know if Granddad gravitated to it first or second. I think if I were a betting man, Granddad probably just liked the name and the fact that it was Chardonnay de Pop. It was like the Pope's wine, right? Like something about that.
I don't think Granddad probably thought too much about it. It was either tied to a memory and that was it, like bull's blood.
Right.
You know, like it was, I don't know.
Right.
Because we really got to know him well later in life, but I don't feel like I was in the place at that time where I was asking him big life questions.
Right.
Right. But I don't know. I feel like it was just around a moment or a memory or a connection and an experience, and probably shared with his son, my guess.
Yes.
And so it was. You don't need to overthink that.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Dad probably went deep.
Well, yes. You know what? You're absolutely right. Granddad was probably a more surface level, just a simple thing that made sense to him, and enjoyment, because he was so much about that. And Dad Dad definitely took it to a level, further than that. And I do know, while I don't remember the restaurant that they went to, I know that they visited Reyes. Reyes, I remember Dad telling me, was this sort of mercurial, mad scientist, genius winemaker in the Rhone Valley, and like a recluse. If you went to his vineyard, it was a disaster. It was a mess. The vines looked terrible. The place was not kept up, and they went there. And I remember he told me, like, this is so Dad, like literally just.
How did he know about this shit?
He just did, and not only did he know about it, but he had absolutely
there was no internet.
Qualms about just fucking showing up.
Because Dad felt like he belonged anywhere he just showed up. He didn't give a fuck.
That's right. And they went to Reyes, and he came out and he welcomed them. The mad kind of recluse genius of winemaking, one of them. And I remember him telling me They spent the day there. They talked about wine. They sent him away. He sent them away with a bunch of wine. And I always remember that. And I always confuse the two because you see a lot of wine from the Rhone Valley named Gigal, right? But then Reyes was the one who apparently was like this crazy mad genius. But
is he still there?
I don't know.
You've never been there, have you?
No.
Neither have I.
Well, no, I've been to Chateauneuf du Pape.
You have?
Yes, I have.
When?
Yes, I went. It would be 6 or 7, coming up on 6 or 7 years ago. Right before, the year that Dad passed is when I went. So the previous regime in my life. Okay, so I don't want to go too deep into that.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, got it.
And it was beautiful. Went to Beaucastle, which I really enjoyed, and it was just like one of those grounding experiences. But to take this back to you, Dad had this love. And I feel that it's passed on to me in the sense that I love it and I enjoy it, but it's not something that draws my focus. Like I don't spend a lot of time thinking about wine or studying wine. I just know what I like and what I don't like, and I know generally the varietals and where I kind of want to be. But you, at one point, really were considering becoming a sommelier.
Yeah, mostly to own a wine bar called Fadduh Wine Bar.
Okay, so where did that where did that come from for you? Aside from the obvious.
Well, so backing up, I don't know if you remember, but when we were kids, this feels very close. When we were kids, I didn't drink wine. Dad brought it out, and he would constantly ask if we wanted to try. You were 6 years older, and you would always try, but I wasn't. I was this little kid not trying. And then even through college, I wasn't into it because I was always so picky about food in general. And at some point, I think after I graduated and moved down to Miami, I think then I really started drinking wine, mostly with him. And, for me, and it originates with sort of the example he set, I would say, but, it would be a holiday. It would be Thanksgiving. And he would bring out 12 bottles and lay out all of the glasses. And it wasn't a forced thing. It was just there casually on the dining table as people came and we were cooking and hanging out as a family. Easy, and you would sort of pour yourself a glass and try it, and he would sort of tell you about it, and it wasn't like forced education. It was just really about the coming together and sharing of something. And I think for me, that when I think back on that particular time in my life, I really remember that. I remember the Thanksgiving when he opened all those bottles that had turned sour on the truck from New Jersey when they moved, which that was fucking devastating. I think that was the same Thanksgiving Granddad threw up because he ate too much. It's the most horrifying thing.
It was not the most horrifying thing. It was quite possibly one of the funniest things I've ever experienced.
I'm saying the visual part was horrible.
Still hysterical.
I know, anyway, it was hysterical. We digress.
Yeah, keep going.
So it was that same Thanksgiving. It just erupted slowly. So anyway, just moving on. So it was always this thing that was casual, right? But it brought us together and we talked about it, and it was I didn't think too much. I just enjoyed the moment of it. And I think it was something that maybe like Granddad, I didn't overthink too much. I certainly, I'm not a researcher. I actually hate research. Lennon, my wife, she will do all of the research and look into it and try to understand. And I'm just an instinctual, yes or no kind of person. And I just enjoyed it. And so later, I always drank wine. And when Dad and I would hang out, we would always drink wine. And I think it was just something, there was a giggle and a wink and the shared moments to it. And I love, then years later, I'm kind of all over, but years later I worked on a project at an ad agency I worked on for a wine that was called Vaso di Marina. And Marina's table water, basically. And we did all this strategy research on it. And it was a table wine that came in a milk jug. And what we learned in that whole strategy session was that, this woman, Marina, who was the grandmother of this family, Portalupi, who's a winemaker in Healdsburg in Sonoma. They make amazing, double gold wines. And they created this in their grandmother's honor because she's from the old country in Piemonte. And what they used to do is somebody would have wine in a vat in the center of town, and people would come down and dunk their milk bottles in it, bring it home, sit down, open wine, enjoy a meal with their family that day. And there was no preciousness, there was no thought. It was just the bringing together of people. And for me, that is that's the thing that I love about it. Like, I love to cook. I love to entertain. I love to have people come to our home and let them feel comfortable and feel warm and feel loved and share stories and laugh and play music and act like idiots. And, you know, just, I love those moments. And usually, like, wine is sort of a conduit to that. You just keep opening bottles and let people enjoy and have their moments with it. And it shouldn't be precious. Like, there's nothing about me, I don't think. Maybe people would argue differently, but I don't like formality. I like ease, and I like sitting down and just sort of like kicking back and sharing a glass of wine and telling stories and
regardless
laughing and joking.
If it's a $10 bottle or $100, it doesn't matter. Like,
I don't care.
I'm with you. I'm so with you.
I could care less.
You know, whenever I'm around anybody that like memorializes wine as if it's like the fucking third coming from Christ, it's just so annoying. It's just like, open the bottle. I don't care what it is. Let's enjoy it. Either we like it or we don't.
Here's what I love about it too is that, and this is where it gets into terroir and the struggle and all of that. Mm-hmm. I have a weird fascination with farming. Like, when I lived in California,
right,
and I would drive from where I lived down like along the Monterey coast and all of that, and you go through these areas which are huge farming communities, and you look out and the rows are just perfectly symmetrical, and there's just crop after crop after crop after crop, and that's feeding the whole country. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, I'm fascinated by that. You know, I have a garden in my backyard. I'm reading a book right now, finally, to be like a good gardener, because all I do, I just copy what Lenin taught me, which is, you know, I don't know anything. But I think there's something really interesting to, you plant a seed, it becomes a thing, you turn it into something else, and there's struggle to it, and there's weather, and there's the elements or whatever. But at the end of the day, you're just sitting down and enjoying a fucking bottle of wine together and having a good story and a laugh. And that's what it's about for me. And so as the years went on, at one point, we had been trying to get pregnant for a long time, which is the only thing I wanted was family in my life. That was it. You know, like, Jordan plays basketball, I wanted family. Like, that was my truth, and it wasn't going well. And somewhere in that time, I signed up for a sommelier course, like first level, get certified for wine cellar manager. And I did it, and then I got fired from a job. I've been fired 3 times in my career.
There you go.
Yeah. And I got
3
fired.
3 strikes, you're not out.
Right. This was the last time I was fired. Now I'm my own boss, so I can't fire myself. And I got fired, and I was a lady of leisure. I went to sommelier training. I lunched. Which I'd never done in my life. Like, I've always worked since I was in 5th grade.
Right.
You know, and so I just sort of explored this side of myself, which was more creative, and I was interested in wine. And for the first time in my life, I didn't think about advertising, which has been my whole adult life. And I seriously thought about owning a wine bar, mostly because it was just so much a part of my heart, but also because I just like bringing people together and hanging and having a good time. And then at one point I was trying to figure out what to name it, and I went to Grenadier, my old agency, and I was sitting with Jeff Graham, my boss, my mentor,
right?
And he was like, well, you fucking name it Fadduh. What the fuck else are you going to name it? And I was like, yep. You know, because I learned it was Graham.
Really?
Yeah, it came from Graham.
No shit.
Like,
I didn't know
that fast. And so, and Fadduh, for everybody, is what I called our dad. And so I was like, well, yeah, okay. And so I started thinking about it. And then miraculously, literally, I got pregnant with our daughters, our twins. And then I tried to go on to the 2nd round certification while I was pregnant. And I figured it would be fine because I would spit the wine out and it would be all good. But, you know, I was feeling very much like I needed to be at home cuddling with my wife when I was pregnant, and it just wasn't working for me, so I dropped out and I haven't done it. But it's certainly something that I want to come back to because I love it. And as I think about my agency, which is called Fadduh, as I think about it now, and I think about it 5 years from now, there is always a social wine bar aspect included in my loose vision of what it could be. I just like to bring people together.
You know, a number of the conversations that I have had since launching the podcast, and that's now we're 13, 14 episodes in, something like that. We're recording. This will come out at the end of April, beginning of May. You know, a lot of them have in some way, shape, or form veered into this familial,
always
historical gathering concept, right? I mean, here we are. We're sitting here, like, look out the window, okay? This is an agency. We're doing business today. It's 2:00 in the afternoon, and I'm thrilled that I'm looking at a number of our crew out there sharing a meal they've cooked. They're sharing what they've cooked here, and they're spending time together, and that's
what it's all about.
It is. It really is, and there's just something. It's inherent. You know, my best memories of us as a family are, and it's with Dad and Mom.
Mm-hmm.
It is the meals with Mom, Christmas, Godiva chocolates.
Always.
Eggs Benedict.
I try and recreate it every single year at Christmas, to the point where Lennon and I have had to talk about that I need to let go of my expectation a little bit, because on Christmas morning, Mom made it so
it was perfect.
Special. It was perfect. You know, you'd wake up.
Freaking perfection.
You know, she had Godiva chocolates, which was such a treat in the morning, and then we would open our presents, and, you know, she's doing this all herself, which, you know, she made it perfect. And on her own, and of her own mind, you know, so you had that whole thing, and then she would have this perfect Eggs Benedict, which I would not eat as a child because I was, as I said, picky.
Right.
So we would go to what was Macy's called before it was Macy's? With the basement.
Bambergers.
Correct. And we would go to that basement and, like, bakery that was delicious and get cinnamon rolls, and that's what I would eat. So I would eat Godivas and cinnamon rolls for Christmas breakfast.
Sounds like my daughter.
Yeah, and it does sound like your daughter. And it was amazing. And, you know, so yeah, those meals, and Mom's Thanksgiving dinner, which literally I cook to a T, and I make her Christmas cookies, you know, like those traditions were so important to Mom and us, and I continue to do those. And then, then I think about, like, with Dad, you know, I don't really think about those as much when we were kids because he wasn't there, you know, except for when we went to visit him. So there was, like, these big moments. He took me to Trader Vic's for my 4th birthday, I think, you know, at the plaza.
Right.
And I remember that. I had my baby doll and, you know, a fake drink, which I tried to order for the girls the other day, and this woman really fucked up my order. But anyway, I was trying to, like, recreate that moment in some way, or, you know, these travels we did with Dad. But really, for me, where it came into focus, and I would imagine for you too, is when we lived in Miami together, starting in 1999, and we would do Sunday dinners at Dad's house, and we would either, you know, grill burgers, the big English muffin bun, or grilled chicken or whatever with he and Kathy and Granddad, because he was living in the house, and then we would watch The Sopranos together. And that was really special because we never had that time as a kid. So to experience some sort of family normalcy with him as adults, or like going to Joe Allen or any of those experiences.
Still my favorite burger experience.
Obviously,
with Joe Allen.
and that crunchy Parmesan
toast.
Ugh.
Yeah, those crisps.
You know, so, like, it was always about food. It was always about wine and coming together and the special moments. You know, it's so simple.
I know, but it's, you know, the thing is it's, if you talk to anybody, most people have some version of that. And there's something just historically significant going back to the beginning of time about coming together, sharing a meal, having that time be an important time to gather as family or friends, and sharing that experience of nourishing yourself, having some wine or a drink, loosening up, talking. And it's the best that, you know, to me, there's a lot of things that I love to do. But if you were to say, hey, eliminate everything and you can only do one really enjoyable thing for the rest of your life, I'd say, and it wouldn't be good for my health, right? But I would say it had to be getting together and opening a bottle of wine and having a nice meal together. Whether
I love
it's whoever it is. It's the best.
I love it. It is the joy. I agree with you.
Why though? Why? What is it?
I think that I answer quickly a lot, but I think that, we're all in our routines. Right. We're both parents of young children. Mm-hmm. We are both own our own companies. We both are doing all of these things. Like anybody, it's like you get stuck in the minutia of life. But when you're just stop, and you sit down and you turn off the TV. I mean, I don't know about your house, but there's no cell phones allowed at our table.
Same.
There's no TV on. Same. And, we talk now with the girls, like typically we're trying to evolve it because it got a little repetitive, but we would sit down and literally like once everybody was sitting at the table, we would look at each other and the girls ask you, what's your favorite part of today? And other families do high-low. And I think, I like that because I actually think it is important to talk about lows and not just like the greatest things. Like it's actually more important to talk about the stuff that's hard in your day. But you just stop and you're together. I mean, we cook dinner as a family every single night. And we all sit down always. We have Pizza Friday as a family or Family Friday, and we sit down and we watch a movie together or whatever. Like, it's just, there's so much going on and there's so much bullshit and so much in our lives. And I just think when you sit down, it's just like everybody's present. That's what it is. It's being present in your life and with your family. Or your friends, or whomever, or somebody new. I mean, you remember when we were sitting in the square in the center of Prague having a beer on the trip we took Granddad on.
Oh, God, I remember that day. I still remember that day.
And we're sitting in this square and we're like, wow, this looks like a movie set. It's fake. And we're having a beer and we're talking and they hear us, whatever. And the two people at the table next to us were like, wait, where are you from? You're from Colorado, or you live in Colorado? You went to school there? Oh, my best friend on this Army base, his brother lives in Colorado and DJs and goes to, and put it together. And his best friend was my ex-boyfriend's brother. And he knew about me.
I forgot about that. I remember that day.
Yeah.
I don't remember that conversation.
I do. It was the most small world example. But that's my point. It's like when you sit down, I think that we have blinders on in our life a lot. Or, we're just sort of tunnel vision, and I am very guilty of this.
Oh, me too.
And you're just like, I got to do this. I got to do, like Lennon will tell me, like, stop the fucking to-do list and just relax. But, it's just sort of how I'm built, and so it's one of the things I need to fight against. And, I think when you sit down, you drink a glass of wine, you relax, you look each other in the eyes, and it's about the real stuff. Who cares about the print ad or who cares about most of this stuff? At the end of the day, what people give a shit about is connecting and being seen and being heard and learning and growing and all of that. And I think that so much of that happens over a table.
I agree. Lennon, in our previous conversation, said it's all about the relationships, which is something that Dad preached to me for years. And I was like, Dad just looked down and smiled, hearing her say that. And it's so true. I don't mind texting. I don't mind writing emails. I don't like talking on the phone.
You hate it.
I hate it. But I would do away with all of it just to sit face to face with somebody. That's what this environment, that's why I did this. And every one of my client relationships, the ones that were lasting and meaningful, were forged over a meal, multiple meals, and it's tried and true. And if I had nothing else to do, that's all I would do, is I would travel around from one client to the next to the next. We'd have our business meeting, always talk business first, get that out of the way.
Yeah.
And then, you know what? We got our job done. Let's get to know each other.
Totally.
Let's get to understand each other over the privilege and joy of being able to share this special meal together. And it doesn't have to be a fancy meal. It could be anything. It could be a sandwich. It could be a hot dog.
Well, think
about
the greatest
meal in the world.
Come on. Anthony Bourdain.
And my favorite.
Exactly. Mine too. It wasn't about... In fact, I actually sort of hate the super fancy. And that is one of the things that I really appreciated about Dad.
Right.
We were at a restaurant in Chicago, Michelin star, blah, 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 blah. I forget I'm forgetting the name off the cuff. And we sat there looking at the menu, and what I appreciated was that both he and I were laughing at the pretentiousness of the restaurant, the service, and the menu. And, it's food. And we're all going to shit it out. Do you know what I mean? And so, like, even when you watch Chef's Table on Netflix, which I love, you still look at it and you're like, are you serious, dude? Like, just relax. It's food and it's about coming together. And I liked that, where we could share the giggle about the whole thing, where you're like, this is amazing. The food is amazing. We are very lucky that we get to sit here and do this, because there's so many people who they'll never have that opportunity. And right. I'm so grateful for that exposure. And at the same time, I can't ever think that that's so important.
I share that same irreverence. It's like, let's enjoy it for what it is, but let's not elevate this to something that needs to be up on a monument, and we treat it by bowing down. And,
what is it about the story of Dad and Granddad going to the restaurant in France that they went to as father and son after picking up a Porsche in Germany and driving it to France in this incredible family trip, where they went to this 3 Michelin star restaurant and had a 12-course dinner, whatever.
I think
what is it about the story that you remember? Was it the first course?
No, of course not. It's the fact that Granddad ate so much he had to go over and walk at the train station and walk up and down and fart for about 2 hours,
right? And
just to feel better, right?
And also that he got up between every course and threw up.
Oh my God!
And then sat back down at the table because the food was so rich and it upset his stomach, but he just wanted to enjoy that moment with Dad.
Yeah, he didn't want to disrupt.
No,
I forgot about that.
He didn't want to disappoint Dad.
I might be
it's both
stories, right? But the point, you're
it's
right.
Both.
It was.
And then
less
they
about
walked
the
together
food.
up and down the train tracks.
Thank you for correcting me on that. You're right.
It's both of those things. It's about connection.
Granddad did that a couple times.
And honor.
Yeah, and so it was about sharing that time together and not letting anything. Anything disrupt that, and that's I'm just gonna go I'm gonna go Team Herman right now and just say that's a Herman thing, and that's a lot of other people thing, but that's an us thing too. I as we've gone through this section, there's 2 things that I want to ask you about, because I think that it's an interesting part of our history and heritage.
Okay.
And it has to do with names, and it has to do with your name and the name of your company. So if I were to look up, hang on a second. Am I a terrible brother that I'm like struggling to spell your full name? Rebecca.
Yeah, well, it's okay.
Terrible. Hang on just a second. That's okay. The name comes from the verb meaning to tie family. Jones's Dictionary of Old Testament Proper Names and the NOBS Study Bible name list to suggest the name means captivating beauty or to tie the bind. Hang on, this is Rebecca name. It's a Hebrew name.
It is.
We'll get to this in a second. Additionally, and
isn't she like the first?
I don't know, but just
I believe that Rebecca was like, I'm reading a book about Judaism right now, and I think Rebecca was one of the original, I'll call it characters in Judaism, and I just butchered that.
Just hang on with. I'm sorry, this is going slow.
It's okay.
Come on. What does Fadduh mean?
Oh, I don't know if it means...
It's a Lebanese word, from what I understand.
It is.
It's Lebanese for Fadduh.
When I tried to get I don't know that, but I know that when I tried to get the Instagram handle,
so
it was based out of Lebanon.
Hold on. Okay, so where we were, all right, Rebecca is a Hebrew name. Fadduh, from what I understand, is Lebanese for father, okay? Maybe somebody will correct us. Let's just take those for truth. So speaking of grandmom and granddad living in Colorado Springs, I still remember the day sitting in grandmom and granddad's living room, and I'll show you. I have the document at my desk in a tray folder where I was reading Grandma Herman's story of the Herman family. And I'm sitting there, and this is 25 to 30 years ago. As a young man who had grown up and gone to Catholic school, raised as a Christian, and I'm reading about our great-grandfather, Charles Joseph Herman, who was born a Jew.
Ashkenazi Jew.
Well, but...
Right?
Yes, but it's not stated in
I understand. Yeah, but I'm just saying.
We know that through genetics now. But at the time, I just saw Jewish, and
we never knew that.
Well, it was never discussed.
No.
Nobody ever mentioned it.
I mean, from what we, Mom has always told us about how when she and Dad got married, the one thing she had to promise to Grandmom Herman was that we would be raised Catholic.
Yes.
Even though she was raised Dutch Reform, which is not even something you hear about anymore.
Our mom.
Correct.
Yes.
And that was something she had to commit to before she and Dad got married. For Grandma Herman to, I guess, allow it. I don't know. You'd have to ask Mama.
Yes, those are all true statements. But to me, it was just like, what? Right? And not that it was a bad thing. It was just like, how was this? Granddad was half Jewish. His father was Jewish, right? Dad, 1/4. We're 12.5. So
I'm actually 13%. I'm a little more than you.
You're a little more than
and
me.
I like it.
But okay, so that's where I'm going. The question is this. Hang on, let me see if I want to make any conclusive statements here. The point is for me, it was like, what the whole. Like, how has this never been discussed?
It was just it was from left field. Like we had never been.
Seemed like he was like, and now looking.
Had Dad known?
I don't know. He sort of kind of just didn't make a deal about it.
Maybe he didn't care.
I don't know if he cared. I don't know if he knowed. I know. Yeah. All right. That's right. But so here we are as adults, right? Now, I will say that I personally still identify as a Christian. I do. But my Christianity, if you will, or my belief in that is just a part of me. It's not something that I wake up every day thinking deeply about. I know that there's this history in our family, and I know that it is a meaningful part of me, but it doesn't impact me one way or the other than it being like a piece of my recipe, right? Now, interestingly, for you, so I'm named Christopher Scott Herman, which is very Christian. And, it's like, it's Irish and it's Scottish, whatever.
What was your confirmation name? Malachi?
Malachi. Well, that was just because I was a little douchebag. And
mine was Aurea.
Aurea. Okay. Perfect.
It sounded cool.
Yeah, I thought
because my best friend at the time, Meredith, picked Alana, and I think Aurea was next in line in the book. Oh my God.
Terrible. Mine was I picked mine solely because Malachi was this evil character in this movie, The Children of the Corn. Yeah. And I thought that was the most evil name I could have. Yeah. What a rebel.
Well, at the time, you needed to.
So, okay, Rebecca, who names her business Fadduh, and who has actively chosen to participate to some degree in the Jewish experience.
Totally.
Right? So I'm curious, what does it, I know what it means for me, but what does it mean for you?
It's full circle in this conversation. So growing up, we lived in New Jersey where everybody was Italian, Irish, Catholic. There was a couple Jewish people in town. They didn't put up Christmas lights.
Yeah, they had blue lights.
And I'm just laying it out. They had blue lights, right? And there was maybe one African-American family. We lived in a very non-diverse community, but diverse in, you know, people coming from all parts of the world, certainly, but very Catholic and very Christian. I would say more Catholic than Christian.
100%.
We didn't grow up in like Christian land. We grew up in Catholic land.
Catholic land, yes.
And, you know, religion, I mean, you know, we grew up going to CCD. We didn't go to church every Sunday.
Easter and Christmas.
Easter and Christmas. And I think of those times fondly, again, because of connection and not because of sermon or God or any of those things.
The sermons were terrible.
No, I mean, the only thing that I remember really is Easter Mass when, you know, about the chicken and the egg. Which came first, the chicken and the egg? And you and I were convulsing. We were laughing so hard, and Mom wanted to yell at us, but she couldn't because she knew it was so fucking funny.
Right.
And we were in a family. Like, it was the three of us laughing, probably in coordinated outfits, because that was what we did on these holidays.
Yep.
And I love it. And, you know, that was church. Later, you know, we went to Catholic high school, and I went to Catholic high school because it was an option in our town that was regional. And I was so sick of everybody in our small town. I just wanted more. I wanted new friendships. And so thankfully we were able to go to Pope John. It wasn't about religion for me, you know. And then I went to school in Colorado, and, you know, I think for me, religion was always much more like, I don't know if I believe in God. I don't know. I think there's a bigger purpose. I think we live many lives. And later, after finding yoga and getting deep into my practice and going through certification, I really realized that a lot of what I believe fundamentally is actually more Hindu than anything. You know, this, or Buddhist or whatever. But what I think, to answer your question, my best friend Lauren, who I met in college, is Jewish. My old fiance Jonathan from Florida, Jewish. And many of my very close, dear friends in my adult life have been Jewish or are Jewish. And as a result of that, my first really introduction into Judaism was doing a Seder dinner with LB, Lauren, in her tiny apartment in the East Village in New York City. And we laid a blanket on the floor of her apartment, and all of our friends sat on it, and she cooked a full Seder dinner for everybody. She read the story, we tried the foods, and we shared wine, and we shared a meal together, and we had this beautiful coming together. And again, this happened, you know, when I was with Jonathan, and we would do the high holidays with his family, you know, and I remember at one of them, and I'm not great in all of this, but, you know, you throw rocks into the water to forgive your sins and just let go of your sins. And that catharsis, that letting go and not hanging on to the things we've done wrong, acknowledging them and letting go of them, it really resonated with me. And, you know, then as years have gone on, I mean, living in Boulder now, two of our dear friends, Matt and Emily, are Jewish, and our other friends, Rob and Karen, are Jewish. And we go to Matt and Emily's for most of the Jewish holidays, and they get a lot of, you know, our Jewish community friends together for these events. And it's about food, it's about wine, it's about stories, it's about tradition, and it's about enjoying together. And to me, you know, so much of Catholicism was like guilt and fear and judgment. And I'm like, that's not what life is about.
Right.
Life is about connection and family and tradition and memories and learning. And, you know, I think there's something about Judaism. I'm reading this book right now just to get sort of deeper into it, but that, you know, there's an appreciation for intellect and education. There's a focus on those that have less. There is culture, all of these things that I feel are my truths to my core, and I identify with. And do I believe in God? I don't know. You know, it's like there's a solar system and Big Bang. You know, no, I don't think I believe there's one man in charge of it all. But there's something more going on. And the spiritual aspect of it, from what I know at this point, which is limited, I identify with, but it's more the family piece. I like the idea of Shabbat, that at, this time on Friday night, it is about family until Saturday. And I like the idea of these rituals that you do together with your family and your community, to the point that it's funny, it's very Sex and the City in Charlotte and Harry, where I have been emailing with a rabbi for the temple across the street from our house saying, hey, we're interested in converting, and how can we do that? And we haven't actually gotten on the phone, and I'm like, do I need to show up with baked goods? But we've also talked about, like Lennon and I are about to have, we're about to have a son, and I would prefer he have a bris, but I think we need to be in the process of conversion, and we haven't gotten to those conversations yet. But to me, it's just, it's the tradition and family and connection and the stories. And that's what life is all about. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
So it's so interesting to me. Okay, we grew up in the same household.
Mm-hmm.
We can't go anywhere with Mom without her saying, you're just like your dad, to me, right? Like constantly, right? And I'm good with that. In my heart of hearts, I feel that you are more like Dad than I am. And while I may have his mannerisms, I work in the business world that he, led there's a lot of connection. And I'm not sitting here saying I don't feel connected or like Dad, because I do.
Yeah.
However, there's a part of me that recognizes deeply that I am a Scarsdale, right? Like that, I feel like it's almost more of me than it is of you. Because if we were to look at our family's theological background, I accept and embrace and value this part of our heritage.
Right.
But you know me. In my mind, I'm the fucking Knights of the Round Table, castles, and fucking the Christian church. Like, that is my theological space.
Crests and Ireland.
Yes, that's the theological space that I feel, and historical context space that I feel comfortable in. It's not like a conscious decision. It just is for me, right? And we're brother and sister from the same parents, grew up in the same household, under the same rules and same experiences.
Yeah.
And you have this gravitation, and I have a different gravitation.
And where my Scarsdale gravitation, rather my mom gravitation, is towards tradition.
Sure.
And by that I mean these moments that you do that happen, that you remember, like we're talking about with Christmas and Thanksgiving and certain gifts or whatever, like giving a very special gift in a particular moment, like when Mom got me a beautiful watch for high school graduation, or what, those moments. It's not about the thing, it's about celebrating the bigness of a moment and making that moment big. And I think that Mom is really wonderful at that, and she made us feel very special in those moments as a child. And so those are things where, even just making the Christmas cookies, like I don't make a different Christmas cookie, I make the exact goddamn Christmas cookies that Mom did, because that's just what we did.
Right.
And it's important, so I bring that in, but again, it comes back to the sharing and the connection.
I love that if you look at our generation of the family, right? And what I love is the diversity, okay? And not to get into specifics, but you have this gravitational leaning towards Judaism. I have a gravitational leaning towards Christianity. My wife is Muslim. I am from the United States. She is from Russia. She is Tatar. You have your life. I don't, we don't know, whatever details you want to go into, that's up to you. But the point is we have a truly multicultural, multi-experiential, modern family. Yeah. And I value that tradition tremendously. Now,
me too.
I have my opinions, you have your opinions. This conversation is not about that, but what I think is clear is that there is a deep diversity within our family at this point in time that I think is tremendously powerful, and I value a lot. And as you go down this road for you, I think it's great. Like, I really am supportive of it. And I'd be curious to hear what you learn from it over time, right? What signals does it give you? What connections to the past does it give you? Because it is not religion or theology, or no, it's not about connection to the past for you.
This conversation brings it there in a way that I love. But I don't think, this is why I like having conversations like this, because it gets you out of your own mindset and how you think about things, and you can draw connections, and, it's not how you would think about it. That's why I just love this kind of stuff.
Right.
I think that, I feel that, all of the past basically sets us up for where we are right now, and I'm constantly looking forward. That my wife would probably push me on that, because I'm like, well, what about that, and why did that happen? I mean, I do fixate, admittedly, but I think for me, constant growth and always being curious, always asking why. And, I don't like to take things for face value. I'm like, well, but why? But why? Mm-hmm. But why? But why? And I just want to keep growing and moving forward. And so a lot of this isn't about the past and the family or the history. I love that you drew those connections, because I hadn't myself. For me, it's right now, so much of it is just, what do I want to set up and establish for our family? And so by that I mean Lennon and me and the girls and our son, who's going to be born in probably 8 weeks.
Right.
What does our family look like, and what are our traditions, and what are the values we're instilling upon our children? What are the lessons we're teaching them? And most importantly, because our job as parents is to set our children up to be free and go off into the world, what are the tools that we are giving our kids just to move forward? And so from that perspective, when I think of Judaism, again, as somebody who's not focused on God, there's the tradition, the focus on education and community, and those who don't have what we might have. Those are very strong values that I place a ton of importance on, and I want our children to as well. Very soon they will be doing charity work or, working in the community, because they need to understand that living in Boulder, Colorado in our home ain't fucking reality for the vast majority of the planet. And I don't want them to think that is, and that's why travel becomes so important. And that's why just, a great example is when we took the girls to Mexico when they were 16 months old. Lyle, our daughter, had not really stopped crawling. She had walked a couple steps, but she hadn't given up. Mm-hmm. She really wasn't talking. Day one in Mexico, we land. That girl never crawled again. And she found her voice. She was driving a golf cart, flipping her hair in the air and waving to the town and only walking. And why is that? It's because you need to get out of your routine and be a part of other cultures. It's not just this small world that we live in. And so I just want to instill those things upon them. So I don't even remember your original question. It doesn't matter. But the point is for me, it's looking forward, and how am I growing? How is my wife growing? You were talking about diversity. For me, I'm a woman who grew up loving men and imagining I would marry a man. And then my wife came into my life, and I was like, I love her. And, once I processed that, now here we are with a family, and we've created this beautiful world together. I just think that a lot of it is just, people in this world need definition, they need structure, they need boundaries to process the craziness that is this world. And I'm sort of whatever, I'm open, and Lennon is open, and I think our girls are open as a result, and will continue to be so, hopefully. Mm-hmm. There's so much life to experience that if you're it has to be this. And I say this as somebody who at 22, 23 was very clear in I need to get married, I need to have kids, I need this kind of job. And then I got engaged, and it was all wrong. And then I went through an awakening after that. And I think really getting true with myself in those moments and being who am I? What makes me tick? Me, not everybody else around. Because I think you would probably guess, or you would admit that in our family, there's also a tendency to be well, I should do it this way because this is how it's done, or maybe I should act this way or whatever. And I personally have struggled with that. just in finding my own voice, you know, but I love the diversity. I love bringing in of new people. I love making new friends. I love going new places. I love just having my perception be totally fucked and be like, oh, that's cool. I didn't think about it that way. Like, that's the stuff that gets me excited.
What do you, if there is, you know, one thing that you can pass on to your daughters that is familial or historically prevalent, like, what do you want them to take forward?
Curiosity.
Ah, good.
Curiosity. I just always ask why, always try new things, always be open. Till the day that you're dead, be open to evolving, to growing, to meeting new people. Like, I love when you hear these stories about people who are like 80 and they have friends who are 20 because they keep them young. Like, I think that the only point in your life where you don't have a choice is when you're dying or you're about to die. And every step until then, you have choice. So why not choose like living and curiosity and growing and evolving? Mm-hmm. It's the most important thing, in my opinion.
Are you afraid to die?
Terrified. Terrified.
Really?
Terrified.
Why?
It's finite. There's no choice. That's it. You don't exist. And then now that I have children, I mean, I'm terrified of it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you? No. No. From your question, you're not.
No, I mean, I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not like, yeah, you know, but to me, it's like ending this chapter. To me, this life, this is a chapter in the soul's journey and development. And so there's more after this. There's more. You just don't understand.
You don't understand it.
You might. I feel that I have a concept for whatever reason. But, I mean, again, I love this life. I love this life. I love it in all its hardness and all its fucked upness and all its struggle and joy and all and just the simple moments. I love every bit of it. And at some point in time, it's going to come to an end, and there'll be a reflection, a knowledge, a learning, an understanding, a growth.
Right.
And then you'll be on to the next thing, whatever that is. And that's what I believe, right?
Totally. But I think this is another place where you and I differ. And you are very, like, the way you are, you like to look 5, 10, you like to look holistically.
Yes. And
envision down the road and set structure to that. Mm-hmm. And I don't do that. For as much of a planner as I am, I jump, I say this all the time, head first into the shallow end. It's how I am. It's how I learn.
I did that once. I still have a bump in my head.
That's how I am. And so for me, I am so deeply in this phase of my life that I have waited for this whole life, which is with my wife, who is my partner, and who I took for, it took so long to find my partner, my person, you too, you know, and now we have these two beautiful little creatures who are our daughters that were never supposed to happen because they told me it was basically impossible. Right. Now we have them, and then now Junior's showing up in 8 weeks, you know, to complete our family. Like, we know that that's it. This is our family. We've fought hard, tried hard, years and years and years, and now we have this whole family. And I'm so deeply present with this phase of our life and in trying to just enjoy every fucking second of it, because they will be 25 this fast.
That's what everybody says.
And I look forward to that time because I cannot wait to kick it with them and drink a bottle of wine and ask the big questions and do all, like, I love nothing more than the big conversations, which I know comes later. And I actually had a realization about this the other day, that I think I am more like Dad that way. Because, you know, Mom was amazing with us as children, like so nurturing, and Dad was not, right? and so present, whereas dad was like
more present
later. And while I am, I think, very present with my kids right now, I do think that I will be even better when they're grown, because then we can just talk, and I love that part of it. But I'm so focused on enjoying that and just letting the most of it seep in, that the idea of dying and not having that cuts me at my core. So to that point, I would also imagine, as I get older and go through the evolution of what it means to be a human being, I imagine I will get more comfortable with the notion of death if I'm lucky enough to get old. But at this point, I'm scared shitless, because all I want to do is live this part of my life and be there to watch them grow, to be there to let them, see them find their way and become individuals and see who they really are, without my preconceived notions, like who will they become? Who will they attract as friends and partners? And will they create families? And where will they live? All of that, like, that's fucking cool.
I'm going to ask a serious question it's not the intention to be dark. Who is Becky? Who is Rebecca without all of that?
I can't answer it. Like, I literally can't answer it, because that was always my truth. Not in my identity is my children.
Right.
I would feel like my life's purpose would not be met without my wife and my children.
So what is your life's purpose?
I feel...
It's clear, but it's...
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like at this phase... It's not being a mom that simply. I can't answer the full trajectory because of what I just said. Like, I don't think that way. I think for me, right now, my life's purpose is for them, giving them the foundation of love, of gravity, of safety, of nurturing of their individual selves, to help launch them in their lives. Like, that is my job right now, wholeheartedly. Like, I just want them to have, countless studies have talked about how, and we've talked about this before in various settings, but you as self, so much of it is created between 1 and 5. And developmentally. And I see my and our job right now as giving them the most secure, the most loving, the most supportive, and the most nurturing of their individuality that I possibly can, so that they can launch and be great human beings that are true to themselves, with their own space to be who they are. That's what I see my work right now as a mom. I also see my work right now as a 43, almost 44-year-old woman, as embracing my own strength and shutting off the outside voices, because I think as a woman, I can't speak to how it is for being a man, but as a woman and, as myself, which is different from so many other people, or the same, I don't know. I think that we grow up with models, and you're like, well, I should be that model, or I need to be that, or I need to behave this way, or I need to act this way, or I need to think about this person. There's a lot of balancing, you as a Libra can understand.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of balancing that I think sometimes fogs like your own vision of really who you are at the core, very brutally, honestly. And this is what I actually started to talk to you about with regards to like the brand identity of my company, and I don't want to make this a work thing, but like when I have clients and we work on brand positioning, as you very well know, you talk about family, like, why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you behave the way you do? Like, why is this your agency? What are your core values truly? And, you know, for you, it was commitment as our compass and coming back to sailing and all of that. And I've done this work, like almost like therapy work with clients of mine, because I think that I have a gift in that. And yet for myself, as somebody who's had a company for 3.5 years, I've done versions of that really haven't stripped away and come back to really who I am if I'm just fucking honest. And it's not about dad. It's not about mom. It's not about you. It's not about Len or the kids. It's just about really who I am. And so a lot of that is just embracing, like, what is it that makes me great at what I do? And also your greatest faults, your biggest, what's the phrase? Like, the things that are your greatest faults are also your hindrances, whatever it is. But it's like, you know, brutally honest, a little rough around the edges, casual, yet buttoned up, like all of these things. And so it brings you back to Jersey and to sort of Fadduh. And
yeah, but you know, we're going to address this on the public space right now. You know, what you showed me the other night, it all looked good, but it felt like curtains. And
well, that's not, it's not real though. It's not me yet.
Right. And what I felt was what you were sharing with me was the look of how you present yourself. But what I came away from that conversation feeling strongly was that who you are, what you stand for, what you've accomplished is so much more powerful than how it is dressed. That there's something there, right? When I look at you, I see a woman who has succeeded in the advertising and marketing field in a number of different capacities. I see a woman who has had the fucking balls and guts to take a chance and create your business. Wasn't handed to you. No help, no nothing. You saw a moment in time. You weighed the options. You said, fuck it,
I didn't
weigh.
For it. I just went.
Whatever.
I didn't weigh.
Okay, so you didn't weigh.
Which is why I was ready, fire, aim.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You went for it. You did it. You have your own business that is now 3 to 4 years in operation. Steady clients, steady cash flow. That's a success. You did that for you. That's fucking powerful, okay? There are 100, 1,000, 100,000, a million, 100 million women that either dream of or wish that they could do what you did. That is not your brand. That is at the core of your brand, and that is what the core.
Well, it's because I believe in myself.
Yes.
And I believe in being it's because I believe in myself. And at the end of the day, you asked the question the other night, like, what do you see when you look in the mirror? And yeah, I see wrinkles. I see tired. I see I want to work out more. I see all the things. What was your answer?
Oh, my answer?
Yeah. What was yours again?
I see the same thing.
No. So tell me what your answer was.
My answer is, you're good. You got this.
Yours was that. And mine was, it's like, I know I can, when I was 27 years old, my dear friends and I, Ariana and LB, we were offered a reality show on HBO.
Right.
That was like Sex in the City, but following us. And I remember they had offered it to us. We did not have creative control over the end product. And so that's where the discussions fell apart. But, you know, I remember, because I was in Florida at the time, and I was talking to Dad about it. And I'm like, but Dad, you know, like, everything's going to be on TV. And he said, baby, there's nothing you can do that I can't talk my way out of. And he just went and kissed me. And it's just it was at Joe Allen. at the bar. And I remember it so distinctly, and it, you know,
that's fucking great.
And it
what
was
a salesman.
And I appreciate that, because I feel that same way. Like, and we were just talking about this because you're so into this, like, you know, horoscope and Chinese thing, and I'm this like snake Cancer, and I fucking hate snakes. I'm terrified of them. But then you realize there's this sort of like thing with snakes where you're just like, I'll figure it out.
Right.
And I have a belief in myself. I know I will figure it out. And it's very much like that answer Dad gave me. It's not like you've got this, because I definitely have moments of deep insecurity. But I know at the end of the day that I'm smart enough, and I know I understand people, I read people, that I'm just like, I'll figure it out. And that's what's happened. And I've just sort of like done it step by step by step. And now I have my business. And to me, what you saw the other day from a brand identity perspective is just inspiration. It's just mood boards. But for me, it's coming back to the very fucking core of who we are, which is we are kids born and raised in New Jersey who probably wish on some level we were raised in New York City, because it's just cooler and there's more edge to it. But we're the Jersey kids. You're the little bit of the stepchild with that, right? And then there's this like dreaminess and, you know, longingness that comes from the shore. And this is where we get very Springsteen about the whole thing, you know, that there's a duality there. And I think that there's a duality in all of us as individuals. You know, we are not one thing. We are all these things, right? And balancing. And for me, it's always been balancing the edge and the just directness and the bluntness and the honesty and all of these things with also this just like, chill. Fuck it.
The dude.
Sort of. And for me, it's just, you know, it's flip-flops. It's the beach. It's the dreaminess. It's the music. It's the food. It's the enjoyment and everything. Like, for me, that's the duality that when we talk about brand identity for my company, like, that's what I'm trying to resolve. I don't want to look like some fucking Instagram brand from, you know, Palm Springs. There just needs to be edge and heart.
Right. No, I get all that. Mm-hmm. I get it. I asked Lennon the question, like, you know, like, what differentiated you as a woman to be able to break through this male environment? You've broken through this male environment. You've both done it. Like, you two own your own businesses. In a male-dominated industry. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm saying here is that, you know, the look, the feel, the style. It just needs to be true to who you are. Put that aside. I got you. Put that aside. I almost feel that you have, you know, your social media posts, what you communicate to the world. To me, that says a lot more about your brand than what it looks like. But it's both, because how you present should be aligned with the tonality. Totally agree. I totally agree. That's your advertising and marketing voice speaking, and I understand it. Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is that you have an inspirational story to share, as does your wife. Yeah. The two of you have inspirational, motivational stories. You're shaking your head. Hang on a second. Because this is part of the vision. This is where I actually have the longer term plan. Right. This is where you have an actual Herman obligation to share this with the world. Because there are women around the world who, if they sat and listened to your story, and you don't have a hard story, Lennon doesn't have a hard story. I mean, are there disappointments and setbacks? Yes. But is there a truly hard story? No. No. But is there a hard work, perseverance, dedication, passion, and love for what you do story to get you to the point where you can have the freedom to own your own business? Yes. Well, it's not just about the business, it's about our family. Oh, it is. It's both. So it's not just about the business. Like, we have created a family and a life that most people do not understand. And by that I mean they look at me and they say, you're gay, you're a lesbian.
And I'm like, I understand that that's what you need to say because I'm in a same-sex relationship with a woman. Actually, that's not how I identify. I feel like a straight girl who fell in love with this amazing woman. Mm-hmm. And so, but people can't wrap their head around that, right? And some. Some.
A lot.
And, the majority.
Most, yeah.
Right. And you need a definition. Like, the world needs definitions.
For some reason.
Because it's just how we process. I don't even begrudge anybody for it. Like, I get it, right? And, to me, and as I think about my business and the story there, when I first launched the business, I had been fired, as I mentioned, but not connected to this story. I was fired from a job. I got pregnant, like whatever. Yeah, and then I was fired from another job. It was all very complicated. And for me, in launching my business, there was a lot of shame involved in it. And there was a lot of, I had an opportunity to pitch a client that was my relationship and that I had developed and cultivated. And that person came to me on maternity leave and said, I want, wherever you are, I want to work with you. And I brought them to the agency I had been at, who took amazing care of me while I was pregnant with our twins and, probably racked up $500,000 in medical bills and delivering them. And we had a policy about, staying there through maternity. And the Herman way, like, you do your obligation. I was not going to leave. I was grateful. But I also saw that agency was sinking. And our dad taught us enough that you just don't go down with a fucking sinking ship. And I was not going to stay.
Unless you're the captain.
Unless you're the captain. And which I was not. And so, I was not going to sell my client, who I had this relationship with, on something that was sinking. And at the same time, he was not going to go there. And so I actually had a friend say, why don't you pitch him with a team? And I did. And we won. And that started my agency. And then I got fired. And then I got served papers saying I couldn't work on that business for a year. And I had 8-month-old twins and I had 4 months prior, I'd bought a house, and I shit my pants. And everybody in this ad community was pissed that this had happened. And I was ashamed. And I went deep into everybody I respect, men, pissed when every single one of those men started their agency by legitimately stealing clients from their agencies they had been in. I didn't do that.
Right.
And so, but yet I felt that, and the only reason why I moved forward, was because I had a community of women, my girlfriends, who came over and were like, there's something here. Don't fucking give up. Keep going. I paced our backyard so angry, but it was only because of the support. And then you hired me to rebrand your agency. Mm-hmm. And that sustained me for the first 6 months. And that's how. So you talk about how did you do this? And yes, at that moment, there was no belief in myself, just pissed and shame. And then a palanca, like we learned in high school, mm-hmm. somebody who reaches out in a time of need and grabs your hand and helps you along. And I believe that I helped you in return. Yep. But you helped me. And I did not do that by myself. And I had all of my girlfriends, my closest friends, my community around our table saying, fucking do it. I couldn't have done it without both, right? And so then you just keep going step by step by step. And it wasn't until 2 years later where I started getting repeat clients and people were choosing to work with me, not a guy who had been in this industry for 40 to 30 years. And I started to metabolize the fact that I could do this and people could choose me and I had the experience and all of this. And I felt some of my own confidence quietly. And then I started to try and find my voice. It wasn't about the we, it wasn't about the work. I tried to start slowly cultivating my voice. And so now where I'm at, and I think it's the result of going through a lot this past year, that I'm truly embracing. I'm cool with who I am. And I think a lot of it is just becoming a 44-year-old woman. And now I'm able to actualize my company and our brand in a way that's very true to who I am. And I see, this is so long-winded, but I can see a path to I can see a children's book for other families like ours, a story for little kids that are families like ours, and I can see a platform for myself to speak. Because you're right. This story, and I mean the whole story, hasn't been told.
That's a good story. It's a meaningful story. It's a powerful story.
Right.
Okay, so we've been talking for a long time.
Very long time.
We can continue talking, but I feel like probably time for us to
wrap it up
a little bit. So let's do this. You are continually crafting your vessel. And your vessel is your family, your business, you at all pieces, as am I.
Yeah.
You helped me craft this vessel. This would not be a vessel. I mean, I must say that the brand identity that you and your team helped establish and created for us, it fucking stuck. Like, it's no joke. Everybody knows here, this is a crew. We're on a ship. Everybody knows that. It's not even like, it's for real.
Yeah.
And not in a Captain Jack's seafood kind of way.
No.
It's like, it's legitimately, it's
who
stuck.
you are at your core.
You were able to establish something that I could not see for myself.
And Allie was able to help me.
Yeah, of course. And hopefully I have been able to help you continually see who you are.
Totally.
So let's speaking of ships and boats and crafts, let's end this by each recounting our favorite story on the boat.
Okay. Who goes first?
Doesn't matter. You decide.
Well, we were talking about it last night because we went to dinner in Jupiter. And after dinner, we were walking on the docks, and I was telling Lennon stories just about how fun it was to, we'd get a mooring and then get on the dinghy. So our boat was Hermie, and our dinghy was the Hermit Crab. It's really good naming.
That was your name. I feel like Hermit Crab was yours. I had nothing to do with that.
I don't think I did either. I feel like Dad did it. I feel like it was always Hermit Crab. No idea. Either way, like the Hermit Crab would come scuttle into shore, and we'd go to dinner, and then we'd scuttle back. My most favorite memories of this very, what's the word I want? I mean, having a sailboat and sailing between islands in Rhode Island and Massachusetts is a very very privileged thing to be able to do. Just owning a boat.
Okay, but you can. I give you permission to speak about it with enjoyment.
I'm just caveating that.
I understand.
My most favorite moments about it were just how fucking simple it was. I loved playing Pictionary on the boat. I loved cooking penne with marinara on the boat. I loved doing ballet all over the boat on the top after we'd gotten to port. I loved how after we would shower coming into port, Dad would bring out a new salsa. It was always the constant search of the hottest salsa. And when I was like 8 or 10, I was eating the most fiery salsa. And that's what we would do. We would play music. The sun would be setting. We would eat the hottest fucking salsa we could find. I would do ballet around the deck. And then we'd get on the Hermit Crab and go eat, or we'd eat on the boat and we'd play board games. I remember you would just like fire me around the bay and I'd be bouncing all around. And I remember you told me that we would get hemorrhoids because my butt was falling out of my asshole from jumping around the boat so much. Like, that's my definition of hemorrhoids, is from going around Barnegat Bay or something. Like the simple, just again, simple joy. Yeah. Simple joy. It's very la, but like to play Pictionary, I am a fucking good Pictionary player because of that time.
Rocket Cat.
What's your favorite?
Well, okay, if I'm going to answer it the same way that you did, I will not be pinning it down to any one specific thing, but a handful. I would say it was the same ease. You remember penne, which I do. I remember turkey sandwiches and Diet Coke.
And Mandarin orange slice.
Yes, Mandarin orange slice, yes. I remember the Eagles, Don Henley. I remember music on the CD player in the Bose speakers in the shelf. I remember Pictionary.
Plotted courses with Dad.
I remember that. I remember taking the dinghy in to dinner with the canvas bag that is similar to what we have here as an agency, with Dad bringing wine into whatever restaurant that we were going to. I remember an ease. I just and I remember the lessons learned. And so I guess, okay.
Can I add to it, though?
Of course, and then I'm going to have one more thing. And then
we're done. I want to add to it because it wasn't just Dad. It wasn't just the sailboat where we got this experience. Like, we grew up on Lake Mohawk with all of these boats. You know, I had my boat license at 13 years old. Our whole childhood was spent on the lake, on the water, in boathouses at our home in Grove Terrace.
Interesting.
And so it's the same ease. It's just different parts of our family.
Now, I didn't feel as connected to that because that was somebody else. Those were always other people's boats, other people's boathouses.
I agree.
And this was ours.
Yeah, I agree.
And so it was different for me. But if I were to remember one thing, and I think now it's taken me a minute to communicate through this, and it's something I've communicated to the team, the crew. I still say team sometimes, but it's crew.
Yeah.
Countless times. Is I remember we were at anchor, we were at dock. It doesn't matter. And I remember walking down inside the boat, and Dad was in the bathroom, which is called the head, of course. And there was a wooden door that flapped open in the head, and inside there were all kinds of rubber pipes and tubes. And Dad was taking masking tape, and he was sticking the masking tape on every tube. And on every tube, he had an arrow that he drew this direction, that direction, this direction, that direction. And he had labeled everything in the boat. Does the water flow this way? Does the water flow that way? Does the electricity flow this way? Does it flow that way? Does this go here? Does that go there? And I remember I asked him, I said, why are you doing that? And he said, because in the case of an emergency, I want everybody on the boat to understand what needs to be done, how things work, so that you can make a quick decision. That fundamental lesson, I would say, in this moment, I would place in the top 5 lessons of my entire life. That masking tape, that marker, showing how things work, not for him, but for everybody else that was involved in the effort to be prepared if something got fucked up. This is how it works.
Or if he wasn't here.
Right. And you know what? He did that for us. He did that for us in a number of 1,000 ways. Nothing in our life would exist without the lessons he taught, the things he showed us, and they are so much a part of us, so much a part of this, so much a part of what you do, so much of you being able to recognize what this is. It's an amazing and it's a beautiful thing, and I love him for that. I love him for the influence that he's had on us and what he's taught us. I love you for what you've accomplished as a woman, as a human. Fuck this woman. I love you for what you've accomplished, because you've done things, quite frankly, that I don't know that I would have ever had the courage to do.
I think you would have.
I don't know. My path led here. Your path led there. Each one of us did everything that we could to make sure that our path...
Well, I think that so much of it, I mean, just... So many people don't have what we had. And we had, we had on one hand a mom who gave us home and grounding and love and nurturing and a place that we knew we could always come back to, right? Mm-hmm. And we had a dad who pushed us and challenged us and exposed us. And the combination of those two things have really afforded us beautiful, beautiful lives. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what our job is. Differently, but that's what our job is with our kids. Is to just, we've had the benefit of like love and nurturing and exposure and culture and joy and laughter and all of these things. Like, we're very lucky.
Ugh. Huge.
Yeah, huge.
But it's
very
true.
Lucky.
It's true. All right. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, I guess
I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you for asking me.
It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. My teeth are purple.